Hi, it's Sally-Shakti, your visionary writing guide, and welcome to Tarot and Astrology for Visionary Writers from Monday the 2nd to Sunday the 8th of October, 2023. Astrologically and energetically, it feels like a quiet week this week. We have a break from the big aspects of the equinox and the full moon. So we had the Libra equinox and the Aries full moon in the last couple of weeks. And next week, we'll be preparing for the Libra new moon solar eclipse. This week feels like a time to energetically integrate both the transition into the autumn months here in the Northern Hemisphere and those big astrological energies that we've been working with over the past couple of weeks. For me, the energy of the equinox feels like a time of rebalancing, and this Libra equinox is a time of karmic rebalancing. I feel the equinox is quite frustrating. I feel often around the equinoxes intensity and tension and frustration, because typically whatever is out of balance in my life tends to come up to the surface for me to feel and see and become aware of and find ways to rebalance with. I've noticed over the past few weeks that when the moon is closest to a planet in the sky, I feel the influence of that planet most strongly and most intensively in my own personal energy field and in my life. So back in early September, the moon was traveling through Leo and Virgo and was very, very close to Venus in Leo when Venus and the moon were close together in the sky. And in the pre-dawn sky, it was possible to see the moon and Venus in close proximity, or visually at least, they look close together. They're at their closest in terms of degree points. So it was possible to see them together in the sky for 1 or 2 mornings just before the Virgo new moon at the beginning of September, or beginning to mid-September. And I could feel around that time intense frustration around areas of my life that are working with this Venus rebirth, the reborn Venus energies coming up very strongly to be brought to my awareness for what needed to be released in order to create space for what wanted to come in, the new patterns and energies and cycles that I'm beginning to step into. I felt that intensively strongly when the moon was closest to Venus in the sky. And then the moon carried that energy, that Venus rebirth energy, into my own energy field and back towards the sun for the new moon in Virgo. And at that rebirth of the moon, then I began to feel some clarity and some momentum to start moving things forward in new ways that Venus is calling to me to integrate more pleasure, more passion, more playfulness into how I show up in the world. This is Venus in Leo. I've mentioned several times that Venus in Leo star point, the degree point at which Venus was conjunct the sun at 20 degrees of Leo, It's also conjunct my natal north node. So there was a very powerful rebirth that I felt and experienced in relation to the direction of my destiny, which is where the north node points us to. So what is beginning to be born through me now in very different ways than before is very much related to what Venus has shed and rebirthed and re-energized for me on her journey with the sun, her retrograde in Leo, her conjunction with the sun, and then moving direct to be reborn from the evening star to the morning star. It's still possible to see Venus in the pre-dawn sky, early in the morning before sunrise. And last week, the moon was closest to Saturn. Last week, Tuesday, Wednesday, the moon and Saturn were very close together in the sign of Pisces. Saturn, again, currently retrograde in Pisces. Saturn being very much connected with this Libra energy. So we have the sun in Libra, illuminating the energy of karmic justice, karmic balance. And then we have Saturn, very much a planet, a celestial body of karma, karmic justice, karmic balance, karma that comes around and shows us, teaches us how to be embodied in this physical world, which perhaps many of us who are visionary writers and creatives find somewhat difficult to know how to navigate the embodied physical realities of this material world and some of the requirements and expectations of this physical world that can feel like they contradict a more celestial, unembodied way of being in a spiritual form that many of us may perhaps be more used to. We perhaps have spent more time or more of what we perceive to be time in an unembodied spiritual state than we have done here on the planet. And especially in these times, these recent, and I'm going to say the recent 2000 years or the recent period of patriarchy, which is sometimes difficult to see as transient, but very much a human construct, and not patriarchy, capitalism, colonialism has not been the majority of human history, certainly has not been the majority of embodied life form on this planet. It's fleeting and it's transient, and I hope and I believe that we are witnessing and participating in the undoing and the dissolving of those very harmful and very violent structures that have been created and the narratives that have been dominant and have manipulated our own embodiment and empowerment on this planet. It's very much time to reclaim our sense of embodiment and empowerment. And simultaneously, it can be difficult for those of us who are or identify as visionary writers and creatives. It can be difficult to understand the mechanisms of this material world, some of which are directly related to harmful, violent, dominating structures. It's very difficult for me to want to participate in those structures. And some of them are a physical or necessary aspect of embodiment. How do we use our time, money, and energy. And I think these things, although our understanding of them can change, our understanding of money, for example, has been very much manipulated and controlled by the forces of capitalism, patriarchy, colonialism. But in terms of money, we might consider resources, our material resources, our relationship with the earth and the abundance of resources that the earth provides for us. And yet the kinship, the reciprocity, the nurturing that we can receive from standing in our power as through a direct connection with our own source of energy, our own source of wealth, our own source of resources in connection with the material resources that the earth provides and the energetic resources that we can tap into through practices like breath, meditation, yoga, pleasure, sensuality, sexuality, creativity, those practices that support us to raise our kundalini and to expand our capacity to hold light and vibrancy, and then to share that light with others through our creations and co-creations. These are ways of learning to embody ourselves, learning to become more grounded and embodied in relationship with the materiality of this world, which has been hijacked and held hostage through the dominating and controlling narratives. How do we, as visionary writers and creatives, not only through our creative practice, but through our embodiment practice, become more present, increase our capacity to hold presence for ourselves and others, to communicate that through our writing and practices, and to reclaim a sense of embodiment and empowerment, or embodied empowerment, that brings us back into kinship, connection, relationship with ourselves and the earth, the materials, the resources of the earth, and with others as our kin, in a very different way than has been understood as what it means to live in the material world and to have wealth and resources and power. And those things, wealth, resources, power, money, sexuality, can feel like the most scary or confusing or challenging or difficult aspects of human embodiment to reclaim and to embody, because they have been so dangerously manipulated and so damaging, or so damaged, or the narrative around them has become so violent and coercive and controlling. And yet, with the moon and Saturn close together in the sign of Pisces last week, especially with the energy of the equinox so strong, that for me, that frustration of where I am still feeling karmically out of balance was very, very strong, especially in relation to my three key Saturn aspects or elements or energies: money, time, and energy. I'm working very much with the challenges of those Saturn areas of life in this incarnation, in this embodiment. money, time, and energy. Still very much witnessing where I'm out of balance in those relationships, where embodied and inherited beliefs I'm perpetuating through my behaviors, poverty consciousness. I've got great at being able to spend money to be able to buy what I what nourishes me, what feels good. Not always so great at being able to receive that money back in return. So I get, and the both equinoxes this year have very much shown me where I'm out of balance between spending more than I'm earning, spending more than I'm bringing in. The same has been true for me in terms of my energy when I have been in patterns of overgiving, overspending my energy, giving more than I've got, giving more than I'm realistically receiving, and not being nourished back in return. And the same has been true and still continues to be true in terms of time, where I'm taking more time than I have and ending up rushing or compromising or putting pressure on myself and others because my relationship with time has not been fully well balanced. And these three Saturn aspects tend to come up for me most strongly and intensely around the equinoxes, showing me where that balance still needs to be evened out in terms of my ability to receive and hold and create capacity in relation to my ability to spend and give and deplete myself. I've spoken often about, as visionary writers and creatives, we can experience burnout through misdirected energy when we're giving our energy to people and projects that are not replenishing us with the same creative energy that we're giving. And I feel that there are and can be echoes and similarities of that with, certainly for myself, the relationship with money and time as well. These are Saturn aspects for me. So the Saturn, Moon and Saturn together in the sky brought those energies more strongly, intensely into my energy field, right at the time when I was already feeling the intensity of those energies from the autumn equinox, these strong signals of where my material life is not in balance and needs to be in greater balance between giving and receiving in order for me to be more fully resourced and more to have a greater impact, to reach more people, to be able to be of greater service. And this comes through from and within our practice as visionary writers and creatives and our own personal development work, the personal healing that this path requires of us to continue to hollow out the vessel, that we may become clearer and clearer channels for the work that wants to be born through us. And so the Aries full moon on Friday again brought some of these energies into fuller illumination, particularly those energies of self-empowerment, self-direction, desire, passion. How do we balance that with in our relationships with others? And again, for me, how do we claim, this is Aries, how do we claim our right to embodiment, our right to creative empowerment, our the Kundalini, our connection to source as the source of our own creative energy, and our embodied active participation as co-creators of this world. All of these aspects are at play when these energies are present in the astrology. And thinking about the moon and Saturn, the very earthy, 3D material energy of this world, is currently retrograde in the sign of Pisces. Pisces is the energy, the invitation to go beyond the cosmos. It's out of this world. It's the sign of celestial wisdom and cosmic consciousness. So how, again, do we prepare our vessels to be of sacred service through our practice as channels of celestial wisdom? And one of the ways in which we're invited to do that is to step into greater embodiment and empowerment as embodied human beings in this physical material world, and with awareness of our kinship, the need for reciprocity in our relationships, not only with ourselves and with others, but with those material energies, money, time, and energy. How do we bring this into balance so that we can step into our own embodied, sensual, creative, sexual, co-creative empowerment as intentional participants in the co-creation of the world that we are here to usher in and to birth through our being? So these are some of the energies that have been strong for me this past week or two. And this week, we get a moment's pause, time to integrate those energies, those imbalances, those frustrations, the intensities, ways that we would like to show up differently, how we can step forward more creatively into our own power as embodied, sensual, soulful, incarnated human beings, visionary writers and creatives, how we get to channel cosmic consciousness through that Saturn in Pisces energy, how we get to show up in our full power and leadership, the full moon in Aries. And we have time this week to integrate some of these energies before we then bring those integrated parts of ourselves through the Libra solar eclipse portal next week on the 14th of October. Now is our time for introspection, journaling, healing, integrating, so that we can pass through that equinox portal, knowing what we are ready to release and open to what wants to be called in. So I will draw us a card for this week's energy. Collectively. Okay, it's the Four of Cups reversed. This is from the Wild Unknown Pocket Tarot. The Four of Cups reversed. Four of Cups is an invitation into emotional reset. It's also sometimes an indication that we are failing to recognize the abundance around us, that we're unable to see the wealth and resources that are available to us or on offer to us. Four of Cups reversed suggests that this integration period is an opportunity to realign our relationship with our own internal emotional landscape, as well as how we relate to and recognize the resources that are available to us. How can we, in this very much shifting and unstable global economic climate, you might even say crisis, how can we, as self-regulated or self-regulating human beings, visionary writers and creatives, how can we reorient our internal emotional landscape so that we have a clearer ability to connect with and recognize and receive the wealth, the abundance, the resources that are available to us through our energetic connection with Source and through our embodied connection with the earth? What might it look like? And I think it's a useful question for all of us to consider as visionary writers and creatives. How do we move forward materially in this world? How do we reorient our relationship with money, wealth, and resources, as well as time and energy? Because the current global economic model that we're living in cannot stand. The dominant narrative has been one of inequality, suppression, domination. One that, going back over many hundreds and thousands of years, has served to suppress our creative energy, our capacity to contribute as active co-creators, and has incrementally and intentionally served to separate us from the wealth of resources that have always been ours, that have always been a part of who we are as incarnated beings. But perhaps that wealth and those resources and our relationship with them looks and feels very different in the rebirthed earth that we are creating. It's perhaps imperative upon all of us to begin to dream and vision how we can restructure our relationship with resources on the earth, and how we can open to receive in ways that are supportive and nourishing and regenerative. So this Four of Cups reversed for me suggests going within, finding an emotional reset, and allowing that rebalancing to ripple out into our interactions and relationships in the material world, both with others and with the resources of the earth. So I think that's all I want to share at this moment today. Thank you so much for being here. Please take a look at my website, writingthriving.com, or find me on social media, Instagram or Facebook at Writing Thriving. I would love to connect with you. I will be I already have a number of offerings, including writing coaching, that you can connect with me. And I'm in the process of developing further offerings and ways that we can work together. So check that out, keep an eye out, and I'll let you know how things are progressing. Thank you so much for being here as always, and I'm sending you lots of love.